Welcome to the Public Access Podcast, the podcast here on the Rusty Diamond Podcast Network. I'm your host, Rusty Diamond. Not stopping for a breath or any of that. No pacing. But we're here tonight. It's today, if you're in the western part of the world, if you're in the eastern part, it's the night. And I'm here with my special guest. And I have my special guest right here and right now, and it's better just to bring her on. We have Mindy Jackson. Mindy, thank you for being here on the podcast for night number 2 in a row of podcasts. I don't know how many I set up. I believe I have something like 20 some. We'll see how this goes. Maybe 30. I don't know. There's a lot of them set up to go. But I'm glad I got you in here early because we got to have a good talk beforehand. We got to, which I'm glad we get to do now. I'm glad we got to have our talk. You were going to get some coffee, not at Starbucks, who's not our sponsor. So how did that go once you got your coffee? You were at the same spot. Possibly a new sponsor if they want to send me some stuff over here in the Philippines.
Yeah. I'll give them a shout out. Eliano's, great Italian coffee.
Yeah. Absolutely, worth better than Starbucks. I think that can be their logo if it's not. It doesn't take much. I can crap on Starbucks all day because it's mid-tier coffee at best. They're great for their hummingbird water, their super sugar drinks. Though they're probably pretty good at those, but like as far as just if you've ever gotten drip coffee from Starbucks, like people don't go there for drip coffee though. That's why you can go and get unlimited refills of drip coffee from Starbucks if you hang out there and use their Wi-Fi. But it's not worth it for however much it costs. So you went out, you got your coffee, and what was going on? It was your birthday, and you were partying like it was your birthday?
Friday,
like it was your birthday?
Yes, I turned 50 years old on Friday. Yeah.
So, what was that? What'd you end up doing for your birthday? What's a 50-year-old birthday
Well, my
look
birthday
like?
started off with, a chat with you. That was great. Got my coffee, got my chat with you. And then I had a podcast that I was on in the series. I can't remember the name of the podcast. Sorry, guys. But the series that they were doing is called The Hero's Journey. And I was on there to share about my experience with having had a stroke that caused central blindness and how I painted to restore my vision. And what I chose to paint were the 22 Major Arcana of the Tarot. And as I painted each one, I lived it out in real time, and I shit you not, it was the craziest experience in my life. But I will say this, when I came out the other side of that, I was definitely not the same person. And since then, my life has just been almost unbelievable, unbelievably blessed, I'll say it that way. And then, my son and my pregnant daughter-in-law and my adopted granddaughter, who they have custody of, made me a birthday cake. So, we had birthday cake, and we went for a long walk. So we had a nice nature walk on our green belt here. And then we went to our local amphitheater. It's an outdoor amphitheater on the square or just off the square here in Carrollton, and listened to a free concert, and that ended our evening, and it was just a pleasant, low-key, kind of enjoyable day.
That's how you do 50. Okay. I like it.
I'm redefining
it.
50. I'm redefining it.
Well, yeah. That's a good way to redefine it. So, like, going back to the tarot cards. So, when you were creating each one, you said you were going through each of them. Is that something? Have you looked that up? Like that? Does that happen? Is that like some sort of phenomenon with other people that have created them, or is this something, as far as you know, you're the first one to experience it, or
I doubt I'm the first one. What I will say is anybody who knows tarot, however you want to pronounce it, if you look at the Major Arcana from the Fool card to the World card, what you see is the hero's journey, which is the same thread under every movie, every story you've ever read, watched, whatever, right? So, it's about, and it can be, it's very multidimensional, so it can, it can point to like literal things in your life, metaphorical things in your life. And for me, it was definitely multi-dimensional because I started off with I'm leaving behind a whole identity. I was even in a toxic relationship that when I got to the Tower card and the Devil card, they walked in and we had the breakup conversation. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Right? And, I went through a dark night of the soul from that. I had to slay my own demons. I even got to the point where I considered suicide. I had previously struggled with addictions and healed myself, and yes, you can fully recover people. You don't have to always be recovering, and I understand that mindset, but it doesn't have to be that way. And I had moments where the tendency, the desire was there, and I just chose me. And that's what I had to do, is over and over and over again throughout the whole hard part of that process was to choose me. And early in the deck, you have the magician. The magician is someone who has all their tools. They have their tool bag full, and they've learned how to reach in and grab the tool they need in the moment, right? And so that was sort of like a way to come back to me, was to say, I have all I need inside of me. I don't need somebody or a relationship or a job position, which I hadn't been. It wasn't long after that I started up my own private practice. I don't need anyone external to me or anything to validate who I am. And even though I thought I knew who I was, I really did. But this showed me where I still had some unhealed parts of myself that I needed to address. And physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, spiritually, I came out the other side of this journey a very different person, very empowered, stepping into my own, what I call the Sophia Christos, and almost like feeling like I was set on a new timeline, on a new journey, and maybe it's just that I've been on this trajectory and every step I've ever taken has led me here, of course, but it's almost like had I not gone through that, I think my life would have gone in a bit of a different direction and I wouldn't be where I am now. And I'm pretty happy with where I am now.
So let me pop back for a second. So you mentioned that recovered and not recovering. So were you part of a 12-step program of sorts? Or that's good. I won't get into that whole story.
I understand. I know exactly where you're going with that, but no, that was not the route for me.
Well, can I ask what the route was for you?
Yes.
Your recovery to recovered.
So it initially started with me going to the elders in my community, and I'm part of the Sacred Fire community here, which is an international group of people who follow the teachings of the Huichol people from the Sierra Madres in Mexico. Their shamans have given us permission to do ceremony with the offerings that they have traditionally used, and I, for the last 30 years, have been part of that community. So I went to my elders, and my female elders did a sweat for me, and we did some ceremony. And then I remembered, I had worked, I had done a lot of study, we'll put it that way, and knew that at the root, and if you guys look this up, you'll see what I'm talking about. At the root of addiction, 80 to 90% of people have trauma. that has never been addressed, that's still embedded in their nervous system, still embedded in their energetic body, manifested into physical dis-ease and disorder, like addiction, like fibromyalgia, like digestive IBS, like all of these diseases and disorders are rooted in that energy. And I was like, well, why the hell am I not using Reiki here? And I had come across years before, I had come across Bessar van der Kolk's book, The Body Keeps the Score, and had that thought then. I was like, wow, I could really work with people on trauma and help them actually heal by transmuting that energy and healing from the trauma. And I don't work from the outside in with my clients who come to me with trauma. We work from the inside out. We start where that trauma is, and we're like, look, let's get that energy out of the way. Then we can process memories and poor coping skills and your trauma reactions and learn nervous system regulation skills. We can learn all of that. It's hard. It's kind of like thinking in terms of, if you're already septic and you're trying to heal from something else, you cut your finger, you're not going to heal very well, right? And even if that finger takes a while to heal, and it finally heals because that's our natural state, is to move towards healing and light, then if you cut it again and it gets infected, you're more likely to die from sepsis. So my thinking was, just go to the root of the problem, which is the energy part of it. And if most everybody's experienced trauma. In the moment of trauma, and I'm not trying to re-traumatize anybody here, okay? But I want you to understand it's an energetic experience. What is our nervous system? What is it made of, right? It is our antenna. It is energy, primarily. And the manifestation looks like the nerves that we can physically identify, right? But when you have a traumatic experience, your nervous system gets overwhelmed with an energetic experience that causes you to go into fight, flight, or freeze. And long term, like child abuse that's ongoing in the home, things like that, you'll learn to fawn. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. You can do all of them. Most people have one primary one that they kind of go to, depending on whether it's like, if it's interpersonal trauma, right? Some people may fight back. They learn to like argue with authority or something like that, or they might like hide, shut down, those kind of things. And in the case of addiction, many times the number one go-to trauma reaction is escapism. Run and hide. I don't know how to handle this, and I can't fight back. I feel powerless. So let me go into my turtle shell, is what I call it. Go into my turtle shell and lick my wounds, which is a natural way of us trying. Our innate mental health is trying to come through and help us cope. But in the moment of trauma, we can't really cope very well, so many people disassociate. And a lot of people can walk around, not even realize they're very disassociative. And I'm not talking about, you zone out for a minute because you're tired or you're bored or whatever.
Right.
We're talking about you feel like life's a dream and you're just kind of like existing, and if something does happen or somebody's talking about something that's very triggering, you can just kind of like go into la la land.
Right. And I mean, that's what you were saying with it becoming an ongoing I forgot what recovering and not recovered, because then you're, it's the same thing with trauma. Like, at any time that you avoid it, or, it happens and you go into whatever the fight, flight, fawn, or freeze, you are doubling that, making it twice as strong each time that you're doing that, and reinforcing it that, like, this is what it is. Every time this is going to happen, this is really, this is how I'm going to feel. And then, the part with the 12th step, then it's like, here, you can just give this over to your higher power, and then it's all taken care of. And it's like, well, okay, good luck when that next trauma pops back up, and let's see how that happens when that has been healed. It's just like, And that's why it's always a constant ongoing recovery, and it's not recovered, like you said. Like, there's so much to getting to the root of it. And there's, like, when I'm working with people with trauma, there's people that are hesitant when I'm like, okay, well, like, the thing that you want to work on, which is probably not even the root of what it is that they're coming to me for. Whatever it is they're coming to me for, like, I have trauma from this thing that happened when I was however old. I'm like, well, there's probably something from before that made that experience a lot worse, and we're going to need to get to that. But, like, complex. Yeah, exactly. And then it's like, well, we're going to get to that really hard part, like you're saying. We need to get to that first. But once you get to that, then everything becomes easier and manageable, and then you're not just walking around with sepsis all the time and ending up pretty injured and gross.
Sorry, go ahead.
And ending up, like I said, injured and gross. I don't know if injured and gross is the best way to put it, but, like, it's just not something that's gonna get better. It's just gonna heal up for a little bit, but it's not really healing up. It's just sort of stopping for a while until it happens again, and they're bracing then. They're bracing for it, like waiting for that thing to happen, walk around the corner, and that shit's gonna be right in their face again, and then they don't have the tools to do it, and they're just gonna get hit twice as hard and probably go right back to, if it's escapism with whatever sort of substance or whatever, and that's what it is. And if it's anything else, then that's what it is. But like you're saying, it needs to be taken at the base and the center.
Well, I do have to say, the 12 steps, if followed appropriately, if worked with a sponsor, those traditional programs do work for people, and it's primarily because most people are looking for some kind of God outside of themselves, and that's conditioning. That's come down for thousands of years to have us. Now, Eastern religions do a little better because they work from the inside out. But when you take, I think the real premise at the beginning of saying that I don't have any control over this and I have to hand it over to a higher power is basically saying I can't do this alone, and I have to look towards something bigger. And when I used to do substance abuse treatment, what I would say to my groups is, if you don't have a good sense of what God is for you, imagine that anything that's bigger than you, that gives you peace, brings you comfort, makes you feel connected. So nature, you could see that as your higher power. You can see the collective group as your higher power, whatever you wanted to, right? But the challenge I had personally, and I'm not putting down 12-step programs, because I've printed out the 12 steps in every major religion for people, but the challenge with that is it does cause a person to stay in that mindset, and that's what you're getting at, that mindset that every time I, get to a certain point, I'm reminded I'm always recovering, so I stay presently in the now, still an addict, still recovering. And I don't know if the statistics have changed since I've worked in that field, but the last statistics I saw through SAMHSA was that there's like a 4% success rate with rehabilitative services. And when I have clients come in, I don't even work with anybody who's in active addiction. I don't see anybody, if they've had addiction issues, they have to have a year of recovery under their belt before I'm willing to work with them. Because I specialize in what I do. But anybody who's ever come in with a history of addiction, or maybe they're kind of recreationally using and they might be going in that direction and need, to be pulled back, when we get to the root of the trauma and we truly transmute that energy out and they learn to replace what that was in their body with divine love for themselves, not just because we've been, I mean, especially in the West, we've been grown up with this idea, we've been raised with this idea of put other people before yourself, and things like that. And the reality is, if you don't self-preserve through love, what good are you to anybody anyways? And so being stuck in that recovering loop just tells me that either that's what works for that person, and I can respect that, I can honor that. What works for people works for people. But if that trauma is there at the root, it'll be the thing that they're fighting against, not so much the cravings, not so much the social atmosphere. It's the trauma, it's trauma reactions that they're wanting to use. So that stuck in a loop reminds me of how we as a society are looking at even human evolution. Are we stuck in a life, death, rebirth, life, death, rebirth, life, death, rebirth here on planet Earth? This is why a lot of people call it a prison planet. I don't know if you've heard that term before, right?
I've heard that term,
Yeah, and that there's this false light kind of thing, and there's truth to that. There is real truth to that. And we are now shifting into knowing that, and we have that bifurcation, and it's all based on belief. And it's not necessarily religious belief. In fact, religious belief, and I'm not completely shitting on religion here, okay? But religion has been used, we know religion has been used, historically used to control masses. And I'm not going to go too far into that because I'll start getting pissed off. But
well, yeah. But so, I mean, that says enough right there. And I mean, and yeah, like, and going back with 4% success rate, like, that's not going to be good. Like, what kind of thing kind of survives with a 4% success rate? Why is that getting pushed when something else, such as what Mindy Jackson is doing, has much higher than a 4% success rate?
What's the agenda behind that?
Right. Yeah. What's the agenda behind keeping
the fact that I have more education and training than many doctors, but I get paid less than half? That a doctor does.
Yeah.
I can only charge so much. I can say I charge $200 an hour and I'm taking insurance, but that insurance company can come back. They have the authority to come back and say, "Nah, we're only going to give you $80." Can I go tell IRS that I'm only going to give them, 2%?
Right. Yeah, give them 4%. Because that's what seems to be a good number.
Yeah.
That's
so when we have a little more equanimity, we'll talk. But until then, I'm pissed off. I'm not like blowing stuff up and waving the flag, but I'm like, as an empowered divine feminine, that's what the empowered divine feminine does. Is you notice where things are off balance, and you speak from a place of heart. You don't speak from just your head or your ego. You speak from a place of heart. I see how this oppresses. I see how thousands of years of all these systems being used to control, oppress, and keep people thinking that they're weak and powerless and dependent on their government or whatnot. I see how that affects people immediately. I've known people to take their own life because they couldn't pay their taxes. What the fuck?
Absolutely. That's a big what the fuck. And that's something that could very well be taken care of by actually
going to
making sense. Going to Mindy. Yeah, or going to the center.
I can't solve the problems of the world, but I'll do my part.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we get to the root of the issue, and I think many of us know the root of the issue. I think we know, but I think we've been led to believe that we can't do anything about it, that we're powerless.
Yeah.
And once we break through that matrix, once we break through the matrix of I'm powerless and who am I to do anything or whatever, then we realize, wait, we collectively can. We don't have to choose to continue doing blame. And what happens when a whole collective says no? What you gonna do? You just let's send floods and kill them all again?
Right. Yeah, it's always going to be something that will keep everyone moving, and everyone can. I don't know, like how many people, like how long does it take you to get to the root of a problem for someone to like, what, like a time frame, like
It varies.
let's say, okay,
It truly varies.
are people like
Trauma
resistant?
treatment can do what? I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Are certain people resistant to wanting to get to it, or sort of blowing smoke up your ass, or like not really wanting, like scared to get to that spot?
I'm sure people
Or
out
what
there are
is?
like that, but I pre-screen my clients. I don't
Good.
take every
Yeah.
Dick and Harry that wants to work on their trauma.
Same.
I have to see a certain amount of readiness. I have to see open-mindedness. There has to be enough neuroplasticity. If you are like overly religious or overly rigid in your thinking and your belief system, then my approach won't work. I say go to somebody else who aligns with you. And
Yep.
so I set the intention for my business that only those clients that align with what I can offer and do the best work I can do will come to me. And if they get kind of through the cracks and they get started with me, it doesn't take long until I or they realize that maybe they're not in that state of readiness that I thought. So, but as far as resistance, yes, there's people hit resistances all the time, because if you're used to holding on to something and somebody says, hey, give me that, you're like, no, that's mine, right?
Yeah.
Or if you're used to hiding behind a wall and somebody else starts taking a brick out and peeking through, you're like, no, I don't want to be seen, right? So
Yeah.
I have to build that relationship with my clients first. That is first and foremost the most important tool you can ever use as a psychotherapist, is the relationship with the client.
Yeah. So then, I mean, I think another one is that some people have made that trauma their identity, and then without having that trauma, who are they?
Right.
And then that simple pat on the back of every time is like, oh, it's okay that, like, I understand this is why you're that way. And if you lose that, then you don't have that. And like, that's a big
that is staying in victimhood, or what I call victim mentality. And you'll see things like blaming others, all the time, not taking really any accountability. Sounds like an addict.
Yep.
Right? Hiding continuous trauma reactions rather than actually using the skills they're learning. Because I use a lot of like mindfulness skills. I encourage journaling. We do meditation. I get my clients to a point where we can use hypnotherapy techniques. I use all kinds of different interventions. But that person has to be ready. If they're in victimhood, none of this is going to really work. It will, but it just takes a lot longer. And go get your core services and learn some coping skills and learn what victimhood is, go and get the core services at an agency or, some facility or whatever. But when you're ready to truly heal, when you're ready to learn how to feel energy, because one of the key elements in transmuting that energy is for the client to do it. It empowers them to do it for themselves, but we aren't taught how to do that. We aren't taught how to feel energy. Many people who, as children, could sense it. Even then, we didn't have the language for it because the adults around us didn't, right? So unless you were raised in, like, say, an indigenous culture that was shaman-based, or in some of the more Eastern, belief systems, many people, especially in the West, have no clue, and they think it's from the devil or something. And, and I'm like, with my clients, I teach them how to feel the differences in different types of energies with their hands and their bodies, that one gets you re-embodied because trauma causes you to disassociate a lot, right? So it gets them back in their body, gets them learning to trust their body again. And especially if I have people who've come in who've been through like sexual assault, people who've been through physical assault too, but primarily women who've been through sexual assault, they don't trust their bodies anymore. And I see something very similar with these kids that stay on a device and never go outside in the yard and play. They don't learn to trust their body in space because they don't move it much. You know, they're not climbing trees and having to balance and jumping over creeks and things like that. So, you know, there's a whole generation of these kids that aren't even really much in their bodies, and that concerns me. But I see a lot of wisdom. I see a lot of wisdom come out of it, but it's like, okay, let's rebalance that with coming back into your body and trusting yourself. So being able to feel the difference and differentiate and discern what is my stuff and what is not my stuff that I'm carrying, especially if you've got trauma, because many people who have trauma are empathic because of it. Not just your normal human empathy, but empathic. And many women carry, because of that DNA connection, that mitochondria, carry the traumas, the unhealed traumas, unresolved adversities and traumas from generations before. I say ancestral. Science has proven 3 generations back, and I say it goes much further.
I've heard 6 has kind of been like the normal, but I mean, even just like with the egg, like the egg with, you're saying with that, with like 3 generations back, and like, but I mean, yeah, like it's got to be way more than 6. Like 6 was
I was carrying
6, but
I can't tell you how far back, honestly. Like, I tapped into ancient Egypt even. Like, it is way bigger than people think. And no, it is not fucking woo-woo. Get that out of your head and start really doing some deep diving and some research, and come back to me and tell me how woo-woo it really is. Because it's not. It's real. They just didn't want you to know it was real because it would empower you.
Right, and empowering doesn't let you
be controlled.
Be your own person. Yeah, be controlled. And so when you were going back to ancient Egypt, how were you getting there? What was your way to do that? Because like for me was, and I don't know, like was doing the past life regression and then going back further in that. But with Reiki, it was a different approach. And my friends Lauren and Brittany, they do a slightly different one. And they had told me about how they were doing theirs, and we were kind of comparing notes. But I was curious how you do yours, how that works.
I will say, very early in life, I learned how to shift my consciousness, and then over time, through different trainings and different experiences, and part of my spiritual community, I learned how to do it more and have more control over it. But I had a near-death experience at age 5. And then months later, I was in the hospital with encephalitis and was having out-of-body experiences. And those 2 experiences are very different from each other. But what it did was it showed me that there are multiple dimensions, like superimposed on the one that we think is reality, right? There are different densities of these. And then there's like limitless, different like potentials, different timelines you can go. So for me, learning to shift my consciousness to tap into my own DNA, it's almost like looking at you know, like if you took your DNA and stretched it out and you're like, okay, here's a timeline.
Right.
And I just went back. And luckily I was raised knowing my great-grandparents and heard many stories about my great-greats and my third-greats, and you know, I knew a lot of my ancestry. I knew a lot of like where the roots as far back as we could get, and we went as far back as the 1500s. And so I was able to, or at least with a couple of strands, a couple of branches on the tree, right? So my Scots-Irish goes all the way back to the 1500s. At least we could find that, and a really cool coat of arms too that showed that we were magical people. And that was really cool to find out. So I think that when you tap into and you start asking those real big questions, Who am I really? Where did I come from? What have I inherited? And what have I gained by my own experiences? What am I supposed to do with this? What is my purpose or purposes? I think every day is a purpose. But when you start asking those big questions and you suspend any fear of, oh, I'm going to travel to another realm and I'm going to get lost, or suspend the rejection of it all, or, oh, that's woo-woo, I don't believe in that. Well, you believed in Santa Claus until you didn't. You believed in the Tooth Fairy until you didn't. You believed in the Easter Bunny until you didn't, right? And when you didn't, right, what happened? It shifted for you. It's not that it wasn't true entirely, because the stories do come from somewhere. And the way I taught my son about Santa Claus was I taught him the history, and I taught him about what the spirit of Santa Claus is. So that is very real. It's all about where you put your attention and what you allow to be a part of your energy, allow to be a part of your consciousness, right?
That's existence.
So, yes. So, being able to tap, there is no real time. So here's a good visual. This is the way I experience the now and this idea of time outside of the linear time that we're all accustomed to, right? If you can see yourself standing in the middle of a column of light, we'll say, right? We'll make this real etheric. And time is not going forward or backward. It's not going through you or, anything like that. It's like this. It's all on the same plane of now. It's about how close and how far away, in a way, because there's really no space either. But if you can imagine, okay, let me sense where in my energy field, once you learn how to really feel the energy, right? Let me sense where in my energy field I can reach out and grab this pocket of information or this book out of my library of information about this particular lineage or this particular lifetime, if you will. And you just choose. You just pick it up, and it's almost like you just pick it up and you read this book. For me, that's, and I know a lot of other people that do it very similarly, right? Because all of that information is there. All you got to do is tap into it, and people think it's hard. No, just think about it. So if I said, do you sense any connection deep within you to ancient Egypt? What about, let's go to Atlantis, right? Let's go further back than that. Do you feel a connection when you hear the word or think about things you've heard about it? Does it feel like something powerful, real, magical to you? Then there's a connection. If you don't, there's nothing there. So if there is something there that feels deep and real to you, all you got to do is, I hate the term imagination. I really do. Because it's been disvalued. It's just our visual skills. It's our ability to psychically tap into things and see, right? So all you have to do is use your visualization skills to see what you feel.
Yeah.
So if I said, you feel, imagine you're on use your imagination to ride a roller coaster in your mind for a moment. If you've ever ridden a roller coaster, you have cellular memory, right? So you could tap into that wee and that stomach going up in the air kind of feel, you could feel yourself on the roller coaster if you sit with it for a moment. And then if I said, what did it look like from your vantage point? You can see. Most people, right? Can see themselves sort of in their imagination riding the roller coaster. So it's the same thing. Use your visual skills, tap into that feeling, because something in you held on to it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a connection. You wouldn't feel anything when I say Atlantis. You'd be like, oh, yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like mine was like you got like this mist going around you, and then the mist clears, and then whatever opens up, and then like this whole scene opens up, and like,
I like
you,
that.
you like see, Yeah, and it's cool as shit. Just like, I don't know if you get this, but you get people like sort of look like you know, their eyes closed, but then you see them looking around, like look down at your feet, like, you know, look around, like, yeah, and you're like, holy shit, like they're like, and I remember when I had it for me, like when I did it, like it was one of those things like I thought was like, this is ridiculous, like what is this? And then I was like, okay, well, I was wrong. I'm happy I'm wrong. Like this was one of the, yeah, it was quite experience.
Think about what is happening during hypnotherapy or hypnosis.
Exact same thing that you're doing.
Hypnotherapy is a little different. It is therapeutic in nature, but we'll just say hypnosis in general. What is happening? You have someone guiding you to shift your consciousness. It's that simple.
Yeah.
And that consciousness can shift with states of relaxation because our bodies keep us kind of like buzzing with active thought. And, you know, we shift in and out of active thought and awareness pretty much, you know, all the time without realizing we're doing it most of the time.
Right.
But once you get the nervous system, right, where everything connects, once you get the nervous system deeply regulated, the body relaxed, the mind slowed down enough for you to be in awareness rather than just active thinking, you can go through various states, and science can show you, biofeedback can show you, right, all the research about how there are these different levels of consciousness, different levels of dream states even. So if the person is not dreaming, they're not asleep, but they're in a deep state of consciousness, the person guiding that session can even get, and sometimes it comes without, there's information that comes without being asked for. The person will just kind of like bring it forward and be like, oh yeah, I remember being abducted by Greys or something, or I remember sure. Lemuria, I remember when I lived in the Pleiades, I remember this, you know, not just things that I blocked in my childhood or forgot about, or, you know, details of some trauma. Who wants to be re-traumatized? No. So, right. You know, it is.
I want people to one time.
Do what?
I want people to be re-traumatized one time, just to get it out, because you're gonna need it. Whoever it is, like if you're coming to Mindy, I don't know. I feel like if you're coming to me, you're gonna have to get re-traumatized one time, but it's gonna be in the best way to do it. I had a friend, old friend, that said, you know, like when I used to. You know, whatever. Well, someone would take mushrooms or something, that I was always trying to make sure I was in a good mood so I wouldn't have a bad trip. Yeah. But being there, that's the best time to have it. Like that's something that really needs to come out, and we shouldn't be running from that. That's something that's like being in the best state to do it, like when you're with Mindy, and like that's a place where you're I don't like using the term safe space because it sucks. It's a shitty fucking term. I don't like it at all, but it's like the best, most welcoming place for you to do it, where you are going to feel the best, and it's the easiest way to experience it. So when it happens and you're caught off guard, you're not going to be like already all jacked up, you know, and feeling weird when it happens. You're like in the, like, okay, well, this is just what's happening. Like, I feel good, but like this horrible thing is happening right now, but now it's a lot easier to work through, and like it's easier to process. That's the best way to process it. And I don't know if yours is sort of different, or if I'm just putting words in your mouth, or
no. Well, there's a couple of thoughts here. One is setting an intention. If you're going to use any kind of plant medicine versus you just want to like bliss out, like if you want to recreationally bliss out, that's one thing. But if you set an intention, I want to heal from this trauma, right? like I have certification in psychedelic language activation and encoding. Basically, what that says is I have the skills to help somebody prepare for what their intention is, set their intention, learn some skills. Like people who do, ayahuasca journeys, you get sick, right? So you have to know how to breathe properly in a spiritual breath. We call it life force breath. You have to breathe that breath, and you can get through that sickness without having the vomiting and diarrhea. And then you're prepared ahead of time because you set your intention, and you're prepared ahead of time because you kind of know what to expect, at least initially, right? Because a lot of people will experience the snake. And if you don't understand what snake is, especially for the feminine, it's Kundalini energy. The feminine is meant to be sensual, and our movement is in flow this way. So if you have a snake coming up your body, then and you're just like, oh, that's the devil, you're gonna freak out. So being prepared, setting an intention, place and setting definitely are really important. Who you're around is important. If you're in a collective group, having some sort of cohesion in the group prior to going into the journey is really helpful because you're helping each other out. You're even like merging sometimes with other people's experiences. So
absolutely
in those states of consciousness, we're talking about heightened states of consciousness. And yes, the more relaxed state you're in, the more aware state of mind, depending on your intention, right? The better you're going to have an experience. You're more likely to heal in a way you don't expect. But if you're fearful, if you're not setting some intention and you're just like doing some shrooms with friends and y'all are talking about shit you've been through, something's going to re-traumatize you potentially.
Yep, absolutely.
And are you prepared to handle that?
Yeah, I probably wasn't back then. Now might be a different story, but back then I don't think I was.
Yeah.
And I mean, how much breathing is the middle of all of it? Like how much breathing? And that's another thing. Like telling someone to go calm down and take some breaths. Try saying that in the middle of an argument to somebody, and see how that works out.
Well,
but
in the moment of trauma, we hold our breath. That's an old part of our brain. It's a survival technique or a survival skill. It's the part of our brain that says, if I hold my breath, the jaguar can't hear me, and he won't find me and eat me. And if I do get scared by the jaguar one time, the next time I'm in a similar situation, and this is where I really love talking about this, my intuition is going to expand so that I can hear or sense him coming a little faster so that I have more time to hide. And that's what happens, and the challenge we have, and this goes back to even the psychedelic experience or the plant medicine journey. If we have expanded awareness, expanded intuition because of trauma, right, because it does it, then we're stuck in fear-based intuition. So we're constantly scanning our environment, like diligently, hyper-vigilantly, and exhaustingly looking for a threat versus let's remove the energy of that. Let's return to self-love. Let's learn how to use these skills like breathing and mindfulness and meaning making and all of this, right? And I watch my clients shift from this sort of like limited sense of intuition that's always, ruled by fear or rooted in fear, to this expanded intuition, recognizing the different, because we all have psychic gifts, we're all psychic, we all have the capabilities. We just have different ones in different, capacity, different, I'll just say strengths, right? So I see them go from the fear-based to the expansive love, and love is an expansive energy. So that intuition starts looking for guidance. It starts looking for things in their life that they're grateful for. They're looking for opportunities, not just, can I be safe? Can I be safe? Can I be safe? When's the other shoe going to drop? When's the other shoe going to drop?
Right. And I mean, that's, and I don't know, there's a lot of people walking around that way. And,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's hard to, because, and you can't really tell someone that. They have to come to that realization. Like, it's hard that, I don't know, because like some people don't want to hear that, and they'll go twice as hard into whatever they were doing, in denial of. Yeah.
You can choose, because that's the point of sovereignty, is we can choose this. I can choose to say, I am transmuting and healing this trauma. I choose not to hold on to hurt and anger, so I choose forgiveness. Because forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for me, right? So it's
Right.
about saying, I don't have to be controlled by blank. I can simply say, wait a minute, I'm not this body, this personality, this set of core beliefs. I am not limited to that, and I am not controlled by anything external to me, typically. That's a good debate right there. But if one recognizes, okay, what is the me that is having this intuitive moment? Right? How does that happen?
Right.
Right? Now, we can try to explain that with quantum physics and metaphysics and all of that, and that's great. I'm glad that we're starting to have that language come into the collective. But when you say, who is the me that's having this awareness, you start realizing that you are more than that. And when you start asking those big questions, it comes back to, and here's where some religious teachings have been helpful, we are an eternal being. We are some kind of energetic body, right? Energetic being. And we know energy can't be destroyed and it can't be created. So it just is. And this is where all our philosophy comes from, right? I just am. Everywhere I go, there I am. So the sense of being an eternal being expands those intuitive capabilities and brings that person into their sense of divinity and sovereignty, where they can say, where you can say, where I can say, I'm not choosing that anymore. I'm choosing something different. Even if it takes me a while to learn, even if it takes me a while to peel the layers back and heal, I'm still choosing to go this way rather than stay stuck in this loop.
Yeah. And so, I mean, so then when is the right time for someone to get to that? Is there some sort of aha moment that they have to have, or is it after someone like beats them over the head with a stick for a while, or is it after the fact of them just, getting tired of whatever's happening? Like, what do you think is the time that happens, or is it different for everybody?
It is different for everybody, but there are some key indicators that the person is about to, and then when you see certain things, it's kind of obvious. When a person starts choosing themselves rather than choosing to people please, or choosing to hide, or choosing to fight back against the principal at school, right? When somebody starts saying,
Right.
It's more important that I preserve the relationship I have with this person than to continually fight with them. And they recognize, okay, and this happens a lot in soulmate relationships, because in soulmate relationships, we trigger each other, and it's meant to happen so that whatever's still unhealed and needs to be resolved can come to the surface, and it's healed within the confines of the relationship. This is where a lot of relationships do fall apart, because we haven't been taught how to do that very well. And so people who are choosing to learn that, choosing to stay with that, are having the more successful, loving relationships. So when I start seeing the person have the recognition that, oh, this behavior I just did is the same behavior or very similar to the behavior I did when that trauma happened, then they start to have a level of recognition that lets them step back and go, oh, I don't have to keep doing that because that energy is gone now. So it's a habitual behavior and not tied to something that's not in their control, because your behavior's in your control.
Yeah. So then when people start finding this out and they start having these realizations, that's when they go, I need to get a hold of Mindy. And so how do they get a hold of Mindy? How do they go, I need to work with Mindy? Or how do they learn more about what you're doing?
Well, I think they get there once they already are working with me. But if somebody does have that awareness, right, that means that they have either stepped out of or are stepping out of that victim mentality, that victim mode, that becomes habitual over time, becomes, like you said earlier, sort of part of their identity even. So when somebody starts, noticing that, and they realize, maybe I need therapy, right? Or maybe I need to go see a healer. Maybe I need to go have some Reiki or go to meditation or yoga. They start thinking in terms of what can I do that will help me separate from that and help me choose me rather than the old behaviors, me rather than the trauma, right?
Right.
Then that's where I come in. I can come in at that point, and a lot of times people aren't quite there. They're kind of right on the edge of it. And I have to bring to their awareness, have you noticed the pattern of you doing this when blank happens? And usually if there's a pattern of a trauma reaction, reactive behavior that's fight, flight, freeze, and even fawn, when they start to notice that pattern is there and notice what it's tied to, they're like, oh, there's that trigger. The trigger is something that either symbolically can represent what happened that traumatized them, or it can be very similar experience that triggers that to come in, and the nervous system goes back into fight, flight, freeze. That vagus nerve goes, we're going to die, so let's, and, when somebody is ready to say, I notice that that's true, and I feel it in my body, I can feel where in my body I experience that the strongest, then they're locating the energy.
Then that's where the part that they need to get to, and that's where the center of the onion is. That's where the healing needs to start before you start trying to do any other shit that someone told you to do. That's where you need to get to. Yeah.
And it's the big knot you got to untie, so to speak. Or I like to think of it in terms of I follow a string all the way to the carrot, and then I pluck the carrot.
And then here you go. Here's what we're gonna go and take care of right now.
We're gonna transmute this, and then there's a whole process to that's based on the individual. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So then, how are people gonna find you? How are they gonna be able to do this? How? I can go like this and be like, look down here, or listen, you'll tell you too.
Well, for psychotherapy, I am bound to residents of the state of Georgia in the USA because that's the way licensure works. But if you go to my Psychology Today profile, my contact information is there, and if you read with eyes to see and ears to hear, you can see and I mention it, I mean, it's obvious really, that I use energetic principles. So if you're seeing this and okay, I live in Illinois, but I've got this and I want to work through this and I want to, transmute this, you can see me even via telehealth, because quantum healing works. Space and time don't really exist. So you can contact me and set up an energy healing, right? And sometimes people need one because truly it can be done in one, but we have limiting beliefs that we have to work through. But people need to see some sort of progress within themselves to believe it, right? So sometimes we need 2, 3, or 4. Usually most people don't go beyond 4. But if you want to do spiritual coaching, if you want to learn some of these energetic principles, I am in the early stages of even developing an online community. It's like a spiritual community where people there'll be like a Facebook group where people can, talk and collaborate and post and all that kind of stuff. But there'll also be like an educational portal where there will be some little freebie things, and then some small classes or whatever that are pre-recorded. And then I can also provide some certifications in some of these. And you don't have to have a college degree for some of these certifications. So, those courses would be, those online courses where, you have materials and, we would meet once a week via, Zoom or whatever, right? So that's the Sanctuary of Crystal Sophia. And when I have that up and running, when I have that website ready to launch, I will add it to my Psychology Today profile page. But if you just go to Psychology Today and you type in Mindy Jackson, Carrollton, Georgia, and if you can't remember the Carrollton, you can just put Georgia and sift through, look for the redhead. You'll find me. Right? Then that's going to be the best way to see what I do. And if you're in the state of Georgia, see the insurances I take. If you want to do self-pay, you can do it that way. I have a sliding scale fee. And you can email me. You can reach out, mindyjackson886@gmail.com. That's also on my Psychology Today profile. I don't do an expanded website for my business because my software program provides you a little freebie one, and I'm like, that's good enough. Go to my Psychology Today profile and you'll get the information you really need all in one. So
yeah,
that's the best way to reach me. And I am on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn. So yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for being on today, and this is.
I've enjoyed it.
Me too. And this is what I'm talking about for how I like to do my podcasts like this. So, thank you for doing this, and go out and enjoy the rest of today, and we'll stay in touch. All right.
All right, loving it. Thank you so much again.
Yeah, have a great one. Oh, maybe. There we go. All right. Nope. Maybe I didn't. Oh, I thought I did it. I thought I did. Now. Oh, no, I did. I got rid of her. Not really, but I mean, I fucking closed it out. But that's Mindy Jackson. Like I said, that's how I like to do my podcasts. That's why I do podcasts, so I can go out and have conversations like that, where we're just coming up with ideas and concepts and going on them. That's what I like. That's what I hope you people like who are listening and watching. So thank you so much. You can find me, rustydiamond.net. That'll have everything you need. And more, probably. So thank you, everybody, for being here on the Rusty Diamond Podcast Network. And that is the show, man.